here we are in Africa looking for the wild beast. We're tapping trees to make syrup. Most people tap maple trees to make syrup, but I'm an outlaw, and so I tap walnut trees to make syrup. It's pretty much the exact same process. There's no additives, there's no preservatives. You tap the trees, you drain the sap off, you boil it down until a certain temperature and viscosity, and you make syrup. The walnut syrup, a lot of people haven't even heard that you could tap walnuts. These are black walnut trees, not English walnut trees. And I like it better than the maple syrup. It has a little nutty flavor to it. However, you do have to watch if you would have a nut allergy, let's say to peanut butter, you might be affected by walnut syrup. The basic process, so we collect the sap from the trees. Like yesterday, we got 70 gallons of sap from our trees. We have approximately 50 trees with about 100 taps out right now. So yesterday we got 70 gallons of sap from our trees. You want it to be about 30, 32 degrees at night and warm up in the 40s in the daytime. That would be ideal. And that's when the sap flows. If it's 10 below zero, no sap's going to be flowing. And you usually start the process of collecting your sap when those temperatures start happening. And if you get a whole week, let's say you get a week, 7 days straight of 30, 32 degrees at night and 45 in the daytime, you're going to get a lot of sap. It really flows well. You don't like it to get 60 degrees in the daytime when you're doing the whole process, because then you risk having some of your sap spoil. It's nice to be outside when it's like that, but it's not so good for the whole process. So approximately, based on maple syrup, you get about, out of every 40 gallons of sap, you get a gallon of syrup. Walnuts, I think it's a little less than that. Maybe every 50 gallons of sap you get a gallon of syrup. But also the problem with walnut trees, a walnut tree is a harder wood than a maple tree. So for every 40 gallons of maple sap you're going to collect off a tree, you're probably only going to get somewhere between 20 to 30 gallons of sap. They don't give off as much sap as a maple tree. So obviously you got to get more trees, or you're not going to make as much syrup, per trees.
That are just in your backyard?
Yeah, mostly we just have a little wood lot, and it's along a creek, and we have a lot of walnut trees. I've tapped some maples before, but I don't have as many maple trees, so I decided, well, let's stick with the walnut and do something a little different. Like I said, I'm an outlaw.
Look, Deborah, this tree made a whole 2 liters of 7-Up. Or something with a red cap, I don't know. That's sap. That is a lot of sap. So that one was just about to start overfilling. So you never want it to get that high, because then you're leaving sap on the ground, not on the table. Hey, your bucket's all dirty, dude.
I don't know how you did that.
Gross. Have you tasted it?
Yeah, it doesn't really taste like anything.
It just tastes like water with a faint flavor of sugar. It doesn't taste gross. I mean, that was a full 2 liter, just about. I like how it foams up. That's how you know it's not just water. Kind of soapy. What?
Soapy.
Soapy. The first time we did this, I made my dad check these like every day. I love it. I'm addicted to let's see if there's more sap. Let's go see.
It's like treasure hunting.
Yeah, it kind of is. Or like Easter egg hunting.
Now, are we sure that that's actual sap and not water?
It's sap. It wasn't underwater. It wasn't underwater. The water went to where the roots meet the trunk. Now, Deborah, be very careful of the mud on the roots, because that's going to be on the roots. That's mud, and that will be slick. Yep.
Woo!
And you've never, this is going to be good, because you've never taken it off of the tree either. You're going to need both hands to take it off that tree. Huh? Good job.
It is slick as snot.
Yep, that stuff is slippery. Drink it, drink it,
Chug,
drink
chug,
it.
chug, chug.
See how clear it can be? And other times,
It literally looks like just kind of like dirty bathwater.
what's funny though is on some trees, it looks like straight urine. I'm not even kidding. It is golden.
Whoa.
Yep. Now you got, I think putting it back's harder than taking it off. Be careful.
That's good, yeah?
Yeah, if you think it's good, it's good. It looks good. This one looks almost tougher. Although you got a tree to hold on to. That one's full too. Holy smokes, we might have a full another 5 gallons.
Man, yeah, this is, look at that.
Well, I
Like-
think it actually did overflow a little.
You think
At one
that's
point.
river water?
No. Like it gathered too
Oh.
much.
Yeah, look at that. It's like right on
Because
the
you
brim.
slopped a little out, I'm sure pulling it off. Everybody does.
I don't slop anything.
You're perfect.
Perfect! Perfection.
Perfectly stupid. What? Well, now you're just getting fancy.
La, da, 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 da. La, da, 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 da.
She's aerating it.
This is my, what is it, not
Decanter. Yeah, well, yeah. I think they call those decanters too. Huge.
Mud.
Yeah?
Look at that mud. Sorry, Sue.
Show me. Ooh.
It's like walking around
There's a-
like
There's a boot brush up at the house.
a boot brush.
A boot brush.
You gotta see a boot brush.
A boot brush.
So then after we gather the syrup, so we have it in 5-gallon buckets, and one thing you have to be a little careful with your sap. You don't want it setting around too much. If it starts warming up with weather, like today it's going to be 60 degrees, and we got 70 gallons of sap, so we want to get this sap boiled because it will spoil. Now, a couple things I do to try to prevent that. Of course, if it's 30-some degrees at night, that helps a lot. And then if it warms up during the day, you don't want to store your sap in the sun, so I try to keep it in the shade. And then I also freeze some bottles and put ice on it, so that helps preserve the sap before you boil it down. So then the process to boil it down is pretty simple. I have 2 pans. I have a large boiling pan and then like what I would call a preheater pan. And we build a wood fire and we get the fire real hot and we try to keep the sap about, maybe at most out here 200 degrees. And as the big pan is a hotter pan and the pre-boiling pan, usually it might get up to 170 degrees. And as that warms up, then we transfer it over into the big pan. We don't want to just put cold sap into the big pan because it'll stop our boil. We want to boil the sap as fast as we can, but yet you don't want to boil it so fast that you burn it too. Level of the sap's important, so I just made this stick. It's got a couple lines on it. First line is 1 inch and the second line is 2 inches. And I try to keep the sap level between 1 inch and 2 inches. If it gets below 1 inch, it can get hot too quick and then you could burn it.
And then it'll burn.
And you don't want to burn the sap. Right now, my estimates, I'm boiling about 5 to 6 gallons an hour. And we made a homemade saperator, if you will.
It's an evaporator.
I stole that name from Garden Fort TV.
Which is a YouTube channel, isn't
Yeah.
it? We'll link to it.
Yeah, Garden Fort TV. It's out of a filing cabinet, and it was a 4-drawer filing cabinet that we just cut the bottom out and built a frame inside and made a firebox and added a chimney, and we use a bathroom fan to vent it a little bit to get a little airflow, and that's the basic process. No preservatives, additives. It's pretty amazing when you look at this sap in the buckets. Usually it's clear. Sometimes a walnut tree will give you a little yellowish color. I'm not sure why some trees will do that, some won't. And it seems like earlier in the year the sap maybe is a little stronger, if you will, a little higher sugar content. And when you start boiling, the sap is really clear. It looks like water. If you taste it, it might have a little sweetness to it, but not a lot. Not much. I don't think it's worth tasting right now because I don't see if you taste any sugar in there. I don't think I do.
Barely.
Just a tenth. It's got a long ways to go yet. And then as you keep boiling it down and evaporating the water off, it gets more concentrated to the point where it starts thickening up. I have jugs of sap that's real dark, and I store them in the refrigerator till I get maybe 5-6 gallons, and then I'll boil it all down. And maybe out of 5-6 gallons that's been pre-boiled out here down to where it's dark, maybe I'll get 2 gallons of syrup. You know, that's an estimate. And you get a certain viscosity. Use a hydrometer to measure the viscosity. And we finish the syrup in the house. We do not finish the syrup out here. We can't control the temperature and be exact enough, so we usually finish it in the house on the stove. You wouldn't want to do all this boiling on the stove, or your house would be a mess because the walls would get sticky, and if you had wallpaper, it'd probably fall off the wall. So we just finish in the house, and we try to get the sap up to a temperature boiling. And water boils here around 210, 209, something like that. And then you bring the temperature of the sap up to about 217 to 219, and then it's pretty much done. And then you put it in canning jars, seal it up, and it's good for a couple years. So I get it down about that low.
Okay.
Okay.
So just a little bit.
And I'll pull the lid out, and here you put it in from that side.
Now
the big thing you're gonna have to.
Yeah.
That's probably a good idea.
Well, and for accidents, but also.
Don't forget, pour it in there, pour it in here.
Yeah.
And you want to hold the pitcher above the thing so you're not dripping.
Yeah, I see that.
It burns the sides.
I saw that, yeah.
If you worked on it straight, you could do it in probably 3 days. You know, from boiling it down to finalize it in the kitchen. You know, you could do it in 2-3 days. You know, so.
So you've got how many filters, Dad?
2.
Like a
And
coffee filter and like a felt.
And what'll happen when this filter starts plugging, we will pull this inside filter and throw it away, and then
that second one.
and then just use another one.
So the inside filter is more to protect the cotton filter.
Yes,
plug it up.
exactly.
It's a fine filter and then a not as fine filter.
Yep.
That is one fine filter you got there, Steve.
One fine filter.
So do you have to boil that down one more time?
No, this is done. This is finished. This is
It
going to go
looks-
right into jars.
Because it's hot. It's liquidy.
It's
Yep.
more liquidy because it's hot.
I think I got, oops, maybe not. Maybe I think I got it down the side of it.
All right, Steve, so what are you doing?
All right, so I filled the jar with the syrup. You clean the rim of the jar to make sure there's no syrup on it because of the seal. If there's syrup on the rim, it won't seal correctly. Put the lid on after it's been boiling in water to activate the seal. Turn it upside down, and it'll sit there for a few minutes upside down, probably about 10 minutes, and then I'll turn them right side up, and then we'll listen this evening for them to ping, which is part of the sealing process. Once they seal, then we know that we had a good seal on them. If they did not seal, we'll have to come back in and do what they call like a hot bath method, where you reheat the whole jar and all and try to bring it back up to a hot temperature and get it to do it again. And then it's going to go over here, turn it upside down.